Your services are no longer required, effective immediately. My name is Alex. I'm 42 years old, and I'd been the head of strategic partnerships at Meridian Tech Solutions for 12 years when our new CEO David Chun spoke those words in front of my entire team during what was supposed to be our weekly strategy meeting. I didn't flinch. Kept my coffee mug steady, my voice even. I hope Monday's presentation with quantum dynamics goes smoothly, I said, meeting his eyes. The conference room fell silent. My team, people I'd mentored through their first major deals, celebrated promotions with, covered for during family emergencies, suddenly found their laptops fascinating. David's jaw tightened. He was 35, Harvard MBA, brought in 6 weeks ago by the board to optimize operational efficiency. Never spent a day in software partnerships. Never stayed up until 3 a.m. troubleshooting integration issues with a panicked client. What presentation? He asked. I smiled. The same smile I'd perfected over years of difficult negotiations. You'll figure it out. I stood, smoothed my blazer, and walked to my corner office. 12 years of my professional life fit into 3 boxes. The Crystal Award from our biggest client integration. Photos from product launches where my partnerships had made the difference between success and failure. The coffee mug my daughter Emma made in pottery class that said, "World's Best Problem Solver." David followed me, hovering in my doorway like a shark that smelled blood but couldn't quite locate the source. Alex, about the quantum account. Not my account anymore. I sealed the first box with more force than necessary. He lingered for another moment, then retreated. My team came by one at a time after that. Quiet conversations, tighter hugs than usual office etiquette called for, promises to grab drinks soon that we all knew might never happen. Sarah, my lead analyst, stayed longest. This is insane, she whispered, glancing toward David's new office. He has no idea what you actually do here. He'll learn. But we both knew it might be too late by then. The truth was, I'd seen this coming since David arrived. The questioning of my methods in client meetings. The sudden requests for comprehensive documentation of all my processes. Last week's casual comment to the board about streamlining legacy relationships. I'd been in corporate long enough to recognize a setup. What David didn't know was that I'd been preparing. Not just documentation, insurance. I loaded my boxes into my Honda and drove home to my quiet suburban house. My husband Mike was working from his home office, but I could hear him end a call quickly when I came through the door. How bad? He asked, appearing in the kitchen. Could be worse. I set the boxes on our granite counter. Could be Monday morning. Mike knew better than to push. 15 years of marriage taught him when to offer solutions and when to just listen. He handed me a glass of wine and started making dinner while I sat at our kitchen island, staring at those boxes and feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Not anger, exactly. Something sharper. More focused. David had made a critical error. He'd confused managing budgets with managing relationships. Monday morning, he was going to discover the difference. I'd started at Meridian fresh out of Northwestern, young and hungry in a world that didn't take women in tech seriously. The founder, Janet Morrison, saw something in me, maybe my refusal to back down from difficult conversations, maybe my ability to translate technical complexity into business value. She gave me a chance when other companies saw a liability. By 30, I was building partnerships that transformed how enterprise software companies thought about integration. By 35, I was the person Fortune 500 CTOs called when they needed impossible timelines met. I'd navigated Meridian through 3 major industry shifts, 2 recessions, and countless competitor attacks. Mike understood the cost. Late nights when deals hung in the balance. Weekend flights to crisis meetings in Seattle or Austin. Missing Emma's soccer games to secure contracts that kept our company competitive. But he also understood what I'd built, something that mattered, something that employed 200 people and their families. Everything started changing when Janet retired 18 months ago. The board brought in outside consultants who spoke in acronyms and saw relationships as inefficiencies to be automated. David was their golden boy, hired to modernize our partnership strategy. The red flags appeared immediately. Client meetings where he'd interrupt my presentations to suggest innovative approaches that made no technical sense. reorganizing my partnership database without understanding the nuanced categorization I'd spent years developing. Worst of all, scheduling calls with my key contacts, claiming he needed to assess partnership value alignment. 3 weeks ago, I'd arrived early and overheard him on a call with the board. Alex's approach is outdated, he was saying. These relationships she talks about, they're just expensive maintenance contracts. I can deliver the same revenue with half the overhead and twice the efficiency. Half the overhead meant eliminating my team. People like Sarah, who'd mastered the intricacies of API partnerships that took months to understand. Like James, who'd learned Japanese business etiquette to better serve our Tokyo clients. Like Maria, who could debug integration issues that stumped engineers with twice her experience. I should have confronted him then. Instead, I did what successful women learn to do. I documented everything and kept working. The quantum dynamics presentation was my masterpiece. 18 months in development, a $50 million partnership for AI-powered analytics integration. I'd been building relationships with their technical team since they were a startup, understanding not just their software needs but their company culture, their decision-making processes, their unspoken requirements. David knew about the meeting but not the details. In his mind, partnerships were standardized pitch decks and negotiable terms. He didn't understand that Quantum's chief architect had specific security protocols, that their procurement director only trusted vendors who could speak her language, precise, technical, no corporate fluff. That their CEO made decisions based on implementation risk, not cost savings. The irony was perfect. David fired me to look decisive and efficient. Monday morning, when Quantum's team arrived expecting Alex Chun specifically, the person who'd spent months understanding their exact needs, he'd discover what efficiency actually costs. Saturday night, I couldn't sleep. Not from worry. From anticipation. Mike found me in our kitchen at midnight, laptop open, coffee cooling beside me. "You're plotting something," he said. "Just thinking." He sat across from me. David called. 3 times. Left increasingly frantic voicemails. About what? The quantum presentation. Wants details about your preparation methodology. I almost laughed. What did you tell him? That you're not his employee anymore. That's when it hit me, the full scope of David's miscalculation. He hadn't just fired me. He'd eliminated 12 years of institutional knowledge. Client preferences, technical specifications, relationship dynamics that couldn't be captured in any database or documentation system. Quantum wasn't just expecting a presentation. They were expecting the detailed technical integration roadmap I'd promised them. The one that existed in my head and in private conversations they'd never find recorded anywhere. I opened my laptop and looked at my calendar. Quantum was scheduled for 9 a.m. Monday. By 10 a.m., David would be sitting in the boardroom trying to explain why their biggest potential client of the year had walked out. My phone buzzed. Text from Sarah: "David's been in your old office all weekend, going through files. Looks stressed." I typed back, "All official files are in the system. He has access to everything." Which was true. He had contracts, basic client information, standard partnership templates. What he didn't have was context. The human element that turned data into relationships. Instead of going to bed, I opened a new document and started crafting something I'd been putting off for months, my own business plan. By morning, I had the framework for Chen's strategic partnerships, and 3 former Meridian clients who'd been trying to hire me as an independent consultant for years. Mike found me still at the kitchen table at 7 a.m., now dressed in my best suit. "Going somewhere?" "Downtown. Good coffee shop with Wi-Fi. Quiet place to make some calls." He kissed my forehead. "Give 'em hell." I wasn't planning to give anyone hell. I was planning to let David do that himself. Monday morning at 9:15 a.m., I was sitting in Grind Coffee downtown when my phone started ringing. David. I let it go to voicemail. Then he called again. And again. By 9:45, he'd called 6 times. At 10:02, Sarah called. "Alex, where are you? The quantum people are here and David is having a complete meltdown. He can't find the technical specifications they're asking for." "They're in the system," I said, sipping my latte. "He says they're not. Says he's looked everywhere." Did he check the client folder under Quantum Dynamics, subsection Technical Requirements? Pause. Alex, he says that folder only has basic contact information and a standard partnership template. I almost smiled. Because the technical specifications were never digitized. They lived in my notebooks, my relationships, my conversations. In the trust I'd built with Quantum's team over 18 months of careful cultivation. They're asking for you specifically, Sarah continued. The CTO said he was looking forward to discussing the security framework you developed for their infrastructure. Wish I could help. At 10:30, Janet Morrison called. The former CEO, now board chair. Alex, I need you to come in. This is a misunderstanding. No misunderstanding. I was terminated Friday. Effective immediately, I believe David said. David was overzealous. We can fix this. Maybe David was overzealous. But I'm not an employee anymore, Janet. I can't legally represent Meridian in client meetings. As a consultant, then, name your rate. I'm not available. Which was true. I had a video call with Stratton Enterprises at 2 p.m. Their VP of Partnerships had reached out personally after seeing my LinkedIn update that morning. By 11 a.m., according to Sarah's increasingly frantic texts, Quantum had left. They'd given David 30 minutes to produce the technical documentation they'd specifically requested. When he couldn't deliver, they politely thanked him for his time and said they'd reassess their options. David called at noon. This time I answered. Alex, you have to help me. This is sabotage. This is consequences. I can report you for corporate sabotage. Withholding company information. What information? I removed personal belongings from my office. My notebooks were purchased with my own money. All official company files remain in your system. You know that's not how this works. Actually, it's exactly how this works. I was terminated without cause and without notice. Meridian forfeited any claim to my cooperation. He hung up. 20 minutes later, security called asking me to return my work materials. I told them to check my employment contract. Personal notebooks purchased with personal funds remained personal property. At 2 p.m., my video call with Stratton went better than expected. By 3 p.m., I had a consulting contract offer that would cover my salary for 6 months while I built my own practice. This wasn't sabotage. Sabotage implied I'd actively worked to damage something. I'd done nothing except take my knowledge with me when they showed me the door. David's failure to understand how partnerships actually worked, that was his choice. His decision to fire the only person who understood the nuances of their most important relationships, that was his mistake. I'd spent 12 years building something valuable. David had spent 6 weeks destroying it. Now he was learning what that knowledge was actually worth. My phone buzzed. Another text from Sarah. Quantum called. They want to know if you're available for consulting. They're very unhappy with Meridian's lack of preparation. I typed back, tell them I'm launching my own practice. Chin Strategic Partnerships. They might want to consider that for their integration needs. Sometimes the best revenge is simply stepping aside and letting people face the consequences of their own actions. 6 months later, I was sitting in the conference room of my expanded office space, reviewing quarterly results with my team of 5 senior consultants, including Sarah, who joined me after David's third restructuring eliminated her position. The numbers were impressive. Revenue up 300% from my initial projections. Client satisfaction scores at 98%. A waiting list of enterprise companies wanting Chen strategic services. The Quantum implementation alone generated 8 new client referrals, Sarah reported. Word travels fast when you actually deliver what you promise. That afternoon, I received an unexpected call. Janet Morrison wanted to meet. We met at Grind Coffee. Seemed appropriate. Janet looked tired. Older than I remembered. Alex, I owe you an apology. David was a mistake. A big one. How's Meridian doing? Struggling. We lost 7 major clients after the Quantum situation. Had to lay off 40 people. Stock price is down 30%. She stirred her coffee slowly. David cost us more than clients. He cost us trust. Relationships that took years to build. You can rebuild. Maybe. But it won't be the same. She looked up. I heard about your success. The consulting practice, the client expansions. That should have been Meridian's growth. I didn't respond. What was there to say? Would you consider coming back? I could offer you David's position. Full authority, equity stake, everything. I'm happy where I am, Janet. Double your current revenue. It's not about money. She sat back. Then what is it about? Trust. When you hired David, you chose to believe that relationships don't matter. That experience could be optimized away. That was your choice. I was wrong. Yes, you were. But the damage is done. Your clients don't trust Meridian anymore. Your employees don't trust leadership. And frankly, I don't trust you not to make the same mistake again. Janet left her coffee unfinished. A year after my termination, Chen Strategic Partnerships announced a major expansion, acquiring the client portfolios of 3 failed consulting firms, including one that David had started after leaving Meridian. The irony wasn't lost on me. In trying to prove that relationships don't matter, he destroyed the relationships that made companies valuable. In trying to show that experience was replaceable, he'd eliminated the experience that made them competitive. Last week, Emma called from college with news that made everything worthwhile. Mom, my business professor used your story as a case study about institutional knowledge and relationship management in the digital age. She called it the Chun Principle. What's that? That sustainable business growth comes from authentic relationships, not operational efficiency. And that you can't automate trust. Mike was right, as usual. You can't save everyone. You can only control what you do next. Sometimes the most satisfying victories are the ones where you never have to fight.